Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Shred's Takes. I'm Mike Shredder, your host for this podcast. I'm bringing back a guest I had in the summer, Jesse Hafemeister. He's a senior at Catholic. He's scored almost around 1,300 points. He'll probably get over that mark at the end of the year, but he just came off a huge game against Wilkes where he had 38 points, his career high. So for those who don't know, and maybe I'll put the link up here for the episode that we did in the summer. Jesse and I, going into my senior year, we played a lot of pickup and we played a lot of one-on-one going into the summer of my senior year and his junior year. So he was in Mendham and we played a lot of basketball there. So again, he's a terrific player, great kid. So I'm glad to have him on. Jesse, thank you so much for returning to the podcast. Glad to have you back on.
Yep. Thanks for having me, Mike. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. So let's get started with just starting out with leadership. When we talked in the summer, you said obviously you wanted to kind of take that leadership role as a senior. Talk about just being a leader, the challenges, the successes, what it's like being a leader, and trying to maintain that with being on a successful team.
Yeah. Being a leader is definitely the most challenging part of being a basketball player I've ever had to deal with. Especially this year as a senior, like stepping up and just trying to set the example for the younger guys and for the guys that can help us be a winning team. As far as challenges, for me, it's really just being able to connect with people and really having them hear your voice. That's been my biggest challenge. I'm not always the most vocal guy and outgoing. So I got when I talk, I want to make sure guys agree I'm getting through to people. And that's kind of where I've had to do the most and work. And that kind of comes just I feel on an everyday thing at practice, your voice is always being heard. And when people know you're consistent with it and when you're doing all the things yourself that you're asking people to do, that's when you start getting through to people and people start hearing your voice.
So talk a little bit about just, again, senior year, you guys have so far started out really well. For those who don't know, they're a top 20 team in the country. They're 16-2. Big win yesterday against Wilkes, who's one of the better teams in your conference, and it was a close game. Just talk about just kind of the going through just the successes, but also just having to learn maybe from those early losses that you guys had to Susquehanna and Hood earlier in the year and how that's helped you guys get in conference play, more from your standpoint too, because you've really jumped off as you got into conference play, and also
Yeah.
the team as well.
Yeah. So to start the year, we were ranked 17th in the country, in the preseason poll. And, I wouldn't say that put pressure on us, but it definitely set an expectation level from the beginning of the year. And, coming in, we weren't playing our best ball. We got a new transfer, Enzo Secchi, who's a really good player. He came from Trinity, Texas, and he's been a big part of our team this year. And so him coming in to start the year, definitely and we also changed our offense. So those two factors kind of made things a little harder to adjust to start the year. So we were winning games, but we weren't necessarily playing our best ball. We were kind of just squeaking by and gritting out games. We lost to Hood, I think maybe our third or fourth game. And that was definitely a big piece of adversity because we beat them last year by 15 and then, played the same team. We thought we were better this year and we lose to them. So that was tough. We ended up, falling in the rankings. But, after that loss, we kind of, had to regroup. And as the season's gone on, things are starting to, click more. And now I think as a team, we're averaging close to 90 points per game, something like that, which we started out the year scoring about 60 a game. So it's really been fun just growing as a team. And we're starting to hit our stride right now. And we're back in the rankings at 20th. Hopefully, we're not really focused on that, but hopefully that'll keep growing and, let's keep getting better.
Talk about the motivation though from your junior year where you guys had a great year, but unfortunately just couldn't get into the NCAA tournament just because you guys lost in the semifinals. How
Yeah.
much that's been a big motivation for you? Because that obviously for me, if I was in your position, that would be a huge motivation. But how much has that also been a motivation just from you as an individual, as a leader, to try and make sure that you're doing your part to use that motivation to make you guys successful?
Yeah, no, it's been a huge motivation. I was obviously, one of the best players on the team last year, and then we couldn't get the job done. It's something as I know me and the rest of our team thinks about almost every day. Just potential that we knew we had to finish the job last year. We didn't get it done. And that literally comes with us every day, and it's a constant reminder because we knew what we were capable of, and we definitely see ourselves in sort of the same positions. as far as like where we are as a team, like we kind of reflect on like how we were last year at this time, and we use that to grow and like, you know, just not make the same mistakes that we made. Because last year we hit a lot of adversity towards the end of the season. We dropped two of our last three in the regular season, and like even the games we're winning before that, we could kind of feel like a slippage and maybe like our focus level and our attention to detail at practice every day in games. And then, we hit adversity and shit just kind of hit the fan to end the year. So, this year, like when we're not perfect. Like there's times where like we do feel slippage, but I think we've been better at like bouncing back and like the next game or the next practice after things aren't great, like we're back locked in and like playing better.
Talking about that, and do you think that having the experiences of playing in the Goodman League and the Kenner League this past summer in DC, do you think that helped at all with just you and individually? Because as we talked about just off air before the podcast started, you've played obviously really well in the Landmark Conference, but based on the fact that, look, maybe it was adjusting to a new offense, people knowing that you're a good player and adjusting their defenses accordingly, do you think like having those experiences helped you still stay in that kind of confident mindset of saying, hey, look, it's game by game, but I'm going to eventually figure it out. I'm going to get myself back to the level. I mean, again, your percentages are obviously very good, but I'm saying like, I've played with you enough to know how competitive you are and how much you want to perform well for your team. Do you think
Yeah.
having this experience this summer and kind of the experience to the past has helped you stay locked in regardless of what happens individually or collectively during the season?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, playing in two of those leagues, like very competitive leagues, and like guys really get after it and like trying to get after me like individually. And that just like really helped because obviously like there was games this summer where I didn't play well, and I still had to go out there and compete, and it was kind of really the same thing this year. Early on, there were some games where I necessarily wasn't playing my best, but I still was just finding any way I could to help our team win, whether that's scoring the ball, rebounding, really anything, defense. So this summer definitely really helped in that aspect of just being able to play through adversity.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about just kind of a success, right? Obviously, you had your career high in your most recent game of
Yeah.
38 points.
Yeah.
And for you, when you go into a game, is it like when you from a score standpoint, do you just kind of feel out the game and see what your team needs, or like are you going out playing within the offense and saying, hey, look, I need to be aggressive from the start, or is it just kind of a feel based on the game? Because I never really ask scores that question, and it's something they always talk about in the NBA. Is like, do I come out and be aggressive, or do I kind of feel the game out and figure out like when you went into that game, was it more like figuring out kind of how the game was going, or you like knew I had to be aggressive right away because Wilkes is a very good team?
Yeah, I don't really know. It's kind of just like a fine line between like the two of like definitely coming out and like feeling it out and like letting the game come to you, but also like being aggressive and not being too passive. It's definitely like something that I'm always, like fighting. Like it's kind of like a battle of like you don't want to be too like go too far either way. So yeah, I really just like it's really just trying to find the balance, and then usually the games you play well are the games that you find that balance like pretty quickly. So yeah, like Wilkes, like I knew they're a good team, and early on, like they were like pressuring us hard, like they were upping us, and I felt like I was able to get by my guy because of that. And then I found a rhythm early and was able to just keep playing well.
So talk a little bit about, again, we talked this a little bit for the podcast this summer, but just kind of the competition within the Landmark Conference. I think it doesn't really get talked about enough. It's a
Yeah,
very competitive conference. I mean, you think about just the teams like what's like Juninata, for example. You think about you think about like Scranton in the past. You think about this year with Susquehanna, Wilkes. I mean, just to name a few teams that are obviously very good.
yeah,
And I mean, because you guys obviously play Susquehanna on Wednesday, which is a chance. Those are the two, for context, you guys are both 8-1. So I mean, just talk about like the competition because everyone talks about like the NESCAC and the UAA and the NUMAC, or for example, or the Wisconsin D3 leagues of the California. They don't talk about the Landmark that much, and it is a very competitive conference. I mean, I feel like you told me how much better you feel like you've got playing in that conference and playing against good quality teams.
yeah. No, it is very competitive. I mean, the last 2 years, the two winners, Scranton and Susquehanna, both won first round tournament games. So like the top teams in our league are definitely can hang with anybody in my opinion in the country. Like we saw like Susquehanna this year, like you said, is very good. I think they were in a game with John Carroll earlier this year. I think they lost by 5, but you know John Carroll's I think maybe like around a top 10 team in the country. So it's very very deep throughout. Like this year, Drew, Wilkes, Susquehanna are all good teams. And there's no easy games. Like you go in there, like you at this point in my career, like I've played the same guys like 3, 4 times. So like we're on each other, and like every game's just a dogfight. And like if you don't bring it, you're definitely gonna get beat. That's just how it is. So it's fun just having to, know that you have to bring it every game. And it's become like sort of personal battles with players, and like it's really cool. And like definitely have a lot of respect for all the teams in our league.
You guys have also an experienced team because like a lot of people will say
Yeah.
like, hey, look, how do you tell the younger guys what to expect from a conference? Because again, you played against a lot of these guys twice a year for now you're on your fourth year, right? So you definitely know a lot of what these teams and coaches are going to probably throw at you. Now the
Yeah.
coaches are going to make adjustments because every year's a new year, but is there a sense as a leader you've had to like go to maybe some of the younger guys in the team and maybe just like some of the experienced guys have maybe done this as well and just like tell them like, hey, look, here's what you're going to kind of get from each game. Like, here's what you expect from a good conference. And have you had those kind of conversations, or is it more just like, hey, look, we're an experienced group. We kind of know what to expect, and we got to just go get it done.
Yeah. I mean, this year we haven't had to have too many of those conversations considering we are returning like mostly everybody who played last year. So everyone at this point, everybody pretty much understands like what's going on and how we have to bring it. Obviously there's moments, like in practice, like stuff where like, yo, like listen, like let's go. Like we got better. Like there's always those times, of course, but for a whole, like we got a lot of guys who are locked in and like bought into the program. So everybody kind of knows what's expected.
Shifting over a little bit, just talking about senior year generally, right? Talk a little bit about just kind of how, how you've been enjoying the academic side of things at Catholic, obviously great school academically, and
Yeah.
just kind of, helping you kind of talk a little bit about also your internship you did last summer, which you and I talked a little bit about. Talk about how those things maybe are making you think about the future or maybe basketball, that stuff. I know you're trying to be locked in on the present. I've known you a
Yeah.
little bit to know that, but talk
Yeah.
a little bit how the, like, the academics and the internship, like how do you enjoy those experiences and how it's making you maybe think about your work future when that eventually comes.
Yeah, no, that's all been great. So I'm in the Bush School of Business at Catholic, and that's been a really good experience. It's a great school. I've got the opportunity to learn from some like really good professors who were very successful in their careers. So, that's been awesome. And yeah, as you said, this summer I interned with Northwestern Mutual in DC, which, wasn't what maybe wasn't isn't what I want to do, but I still was fortunate enough to learn a lot from them. There's a lot of good people over there, and I was very grateful to be a part of their team this summer. And I learned a lot. But it was a kind of sales position, which maybe isn't up my alley, but it was definitely challenging. I learned a lot, so I was grateful for that. And I can thank them, and I can also thank my professors and everybody who's helped me along the way.
One thing I want to ask you is how about the balance of just the academics and the athletics at a school like Catholic? Is it, for some, because a lot of people talk about the D3 that's more manageable, but I still, based on playing it and and going to a good school like you did, obviously, it's not necessarily easy to do when you initially
Yeah.
walk in. And so like talk a little bit about that for you and like how maybe it's evolved for you, being able to grow with that as well. Because I think a lot of people don't talk about how difficult that really is.
Yeah, no, it is hard because I mean, obviously D3, like you're expected to be a full-time student, and you're not really getting help from like tutors or anything like that. So it's hard. I would say like when I was like younger, like freshman, sophomore, I definitely was favoring more basketball, like and maybe let my academics slip a little bit. And I've definitely grown over the last, junior, senior year, and like having to take school a lot more seriously and like sacrificing a little bit of basketball for that, which obviously I think is good. It's best for my future. Not really sure what I want to do yet, but it's hard. I probably staying up late doing homework after practice, like those, like staying up till like 1, 2 a.m. Like those are the type of nights like they're just a reality at this point. So, but it is what it is. Like I love doing it, so it's fine.
Yeah. And the last thing I kind of want to ask you is just, how does it feel to be a senior now? When you and I met, you were going into your junior year,
Yeah.
and now you're in a position now where, look, obviously you got a lot of season left, right? I'm not trying to make you feel like it's already over yet, but I'm saying just talk about like have you been able to try and take a moment and enjoy the fact that this is like your last year and try to be in the present, enjoy those moments, or is it like you've been so locked in to the season and school wise, you haven't really had a time to decompress?
I think I've been enjoying it. I mean, it's definitely scary looking ahead, like knowing like the real world is, very close. And from people I talk to, like they always say like they would do anything to go back. So that part can get a little scary, but I mean, no, I think I've really been able to enjoy it. Um, like it's like I try to like in the moment, like especially like during mostly basketball wise in games, I'm like trying to keep perspective and like listen, maybe I don't want to go to practice today, but like I don't have much of this left. So, I'm just gonna go out and enjoy it. And I think that perspective switch has like made things easier for me. And that's really what I've been focusing on. In games, just like no matter who we're playing, like going out there and just like having fun with my teammates and like just taking in all the good emotions. That's really helped me enjoy my senior year.
Yeah, and again, I always like having these conversations, and I'm happy to hear that things are going well for you. I obviously I root for you and your team to do well because for those who don't know, right, like literally like we've spent like an entire summer playing basketball together.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it got to a point where it was like 3 days a week we were like playing one-on-one, and I definitely got a lot better from it,
Yeah.
just because the competition angle, like learning how to guard in the perimeter.
Yeah.
And this kid definitely has one of the better mid-range pull-up games I've seen, at least guarding. So that the success it makes a lot of sense, but it's always great to have you on. And
Yeah.
like I said, best of luck with everything. To tell everybody what time you play on Wednesday, so if they want to tune into the game.
Wednesday, I believe we play at 6 against Susquehanna's first place game. Games for first place in the league. And they beat us earlier this year. So, really excited for that matchup. And I think it's gonna be a good one.
Yeah. So for everybody, Jesse Hafemeister, senior guard, Catholic University, and I'm your host, Mike Shredder, and we'll see you again on the next episode. Take it easy.